Hi Liv, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm also good, thank you. I had very little sleep last night because of my baby, but I'm ready to find out more about Kita system in Hamburg and in Germany.
Good.
And I'm hoping you can help me with that because you work at once, right?
Yeah. So I've worked at Kitas in Hamburg for 5 years now.
5 years, wow. And how many Kitas did you work for?
I've worked for 3 now.
So this is the third one.
The third one, yeah.
And you work at the bilingual Kita.
I work in a bilingual Kita. So in my group, we do it that I speak English with the kids, and my coworkers speak German. So the kids learn English as a native language through the one person, one language idea of language learning. I speak only English to them. I don't do like a sit down English lesson. It's through play, it's through everyday things that I just go back and forth with the children in English.
And your coworker only speaks German.
My coworker only speaks German, exactly.
Your kids are mostly German or you get...
I actually have 0 German children.
Interesting.
They are all a mix of something else. They're all, except for the one American child, they're all trilingual actually.
That's what I want for my child too. So it's good to know.
It works very well.
Yes. And I have a question because, I have lots of questions, but one that came to me right now. I don't actually live in Hamburg. I live a little bit away from the 2 kilometers of the border. Is it possible for me to send my child to a Hamburg Kita or do I need to look for a Kita in my region? Do you know?
It is possible.
Okay. That's all I need to know, actually. It's possible. How? I will find out,
I know that, and that answer I don't quite know.
And Kita, when people from Hamburg choose a Kita in Hamburg, then is it regional, or if I live in Altona, can I send my kid to Harburg, for example?
You can decide on what's nice about Hamburg is you can decide on the Kita that you would like to send your child to. Other states in Germany, the state decides which Kita you go to.
And how do you decide? For example, can I go to visit a Kita, or what is the best way to decide?
You can visit whatever Kita you want to visit and see what works best for you as a family.
And what should I look for or pay attention to?
I know some people choose which Kita they would like to go to based on location, what works best for the family. Some people choose a Kita that's close to the parents' work, so in case of emergency they can be right there. Some people based on the neighborhood that they're living in, so that then the kids, when they go to school, probably go to school with the same kids they went to Kita with.
Okay, yeah, that's smart.
Some parents choose their Kita based on what the Kita offers. Like my Kita is bilingual.
What kind of Kitas are there? Bilingual? Because I know, for example, that around my house there's a lot of forest Kitas. So the kids, I had a neighbor whose kid was in a forest Kita. They basically sit outside all day.
Yeah.
Not only when the weather is nice, when it's raining, when it's snowing, they spend majority of their time outside and they only sleep inside and they also eat outside, So now I know that there is a bilingual Kita. What other Kitas are there?
There's also art Kitas, music Kitas, sport Kitas. You can really see there's a lot of Kitas that are very based then on what the child's interests are, what the family's interests are. There's the idea of an open concept Kita where there's no specific groups, but everyone can move depending on how they're feeling to the different groups, to the different teachers. And then there's closed, there's small groups, there's Tagesmutter, there's in-home care.
So if there is an art Kita or, for example, a bilingual Kita, do you have a plan of learning or you just play?
Every Kita is going to have different learning methods that they use and methods that they teach the children. My Kita that I work in is very play-based. We do offer activities and things to do, but there's going to be more Kitas that are going to have specific plans of how they teach the children, like a Montessori Kita or a Reggio Emilia Kita.
So you can receive a plan. If the Kita has a plan of learning, you can receive it beforehand. And for example, they can state that the children will learn ABC or counting to 10 or whatever, right?
Yeah, so there's a book of requirements for Kitas and that's published, and you as a parent can read through it and see what is provided by Kitas in Hamburg.
And this is only in Hamburg or other states have it too? Do you know?
I do not know that.
Okay. And how can I check if a particular Kita is good? What would you suggest that I do?
I think when you visit, you have to ask as many questions as possible.
What are some good questions to ask?
A big question to ask is how often the Kita closes for staff shortages is a really big question that I would ask. I would also ask how often the Kita goes outside, that the groups go outside and do field trips. I would also ask how long the team has been there. I mean that in a way that sometimes it's really good to have a bunch of new people because they're excited and motivated, but sometimes too much staff changes is a sign that staff is not happy, means that the kids are not happy.
That's a good point. Also, I wanted to come back to you, but maybe later. But are there any other things to look at?
You have to ask all the questions that fit your family, what you're looking for, and deciding if that Kita fits you and your family.
And how can I check if the Kita has similar values to my family? Can I check it somehow?
I think you can ask anytime you go and visit a Kita, you'll be given a tour by someone who works there. And I think that's a really great opportunity to have an open and honest conversation about how you work with your Kita, with your child, and how they work with children, because they will answer you honestly about how they work with children.
And do you have some of these conversations with parents, or is it usually other teachers doing it?
In my Kita, I do it.
What do parents ask about?
Parents ask often like how often we go outside, what are some recent activities that we've done, what are some recent projects that we've done, what are some recent field trips that we've done.
About the field trips, that was my question. Parents have to pay extra for this?
It depends on the Kita. Some Kitas charge a monthly fee anyways that covers that, in addition to the Kita-Gutschein, the Kita coupon.
What is a Kita-Gutschein? Okay, first the field trips then.
First the field trips. That question is going to be, I have a lot of information to that question. Some Kitas then will say, for example, if we're going to the zoo, children under a certain age do not have to pay entrance to the zoo. We'll have the class split the cost of the entry for the teacher. Like some Kitas will look at their budget and see what their budget can cover that month. But other Kitas will say, hey, in 3 weeks we're doing this field trip. If you'd like your child to come, please provide this amount of money.
Right. And follow-up question to the field trips. Is there something that parents need to buy to use at a Kita? So for example, some, I don't know, notebooks or books or...
Yeah, books won't be necessary. That is all provided. Clothing. Making sure that your child has weather-appropriate clothing for all weather options. Rain pants, snow pants, jackets, and having that stay.
Okay, so extra set of everything.
An extra set of all of those things.
That's good to know.
We go outside, sometimes it's raining or it's muddy from it rained before, it's Hamburg. We will put the rain pants on, the jacket on, and that it's weather-appropriate, and that it's labeled with the child's name. It's very important that everything that comes to Kita is labeled with the child's name.
So they have to pay for extra clothing, maybe some school supplies like, or no, not really, pens.
We're going to get into the Gutschein very soon. Kitas charge for some extras. So my Kita, we provide diapers, so parents don't bring their own diapers, and we charge the parents 25 euros a month for diapers. They always have the option to bring diapers, but we're still going to charge that for the diaper.
Okay. If the parent has a request of a different diaper, you can accommodate to this different diaper, or do you just buy one type of diapers and that's it?
We buy one type of diapers and that's it.
For example, my child is allergic to Pampers.
We have a allergy-free diaper for the children who are allergic to the diapers.
Okay, that's very good to know.
So we provide the diapers that we have in bulk, and then for the children who are allergic, we use an allergy-free diaper.
How about the lunch? Do they have to pay for lunch, or do we need to pack lunch?
Lunch is included in the Kita-Gutschein.
And is it lunch the same for everyone, or can you have requests, for example, my child doesn't eat this, or I don't want the child to have any sugar, for example? Is it possible?
So, first, my Kita is sugar-free. There's no sugar involved in our Kita whatsoever. The lunch is also made for children, so there's no salt, there's no spices, there's no low sodium. It depends on the Kita. Some Kitas have a chef in the Kita who cooks the food. My Kita, we cater. We get catering delivered to us every day. And that is all included. Lunch is always included in the Kita-Gutschein.
Breakfast?
Breakfast it depends. Some Kitas require the parents to bring a box of food every morning for breakfast. And some Kitas, like my Kita now, we charge 25 euros a month for food, for snacks, breakfast, fruit, dinner. actually also. And so we provide that. So that's also a good question to ask at when you visit the Kita, is whether you'll be bringing those things or if the Kita provides those things.
For me, biggest questions were about diapers, for example, because I actually not at the moment, because at the moment, my boyfriend was sick, then he gave it to my baby was sick, then I was briefly sick, then my mom was sick, then my boyfriend was sick again, so we just used the diapers from the store, but before we were using natural diapers. So I'm guessing you would not entertain someone's idea of natural diapers, changing.
That is very dependent on the teacher who's changing the diaper.
I know it's a lot of work, so, but to know that allergy-free diaper is available. Then the lunch sugar-free, for me, like I want my child to go sugar-free for a long time, and also screen-free. I don't want her to see screens. I wanted to ask also if any activities include like watching a movie or screens.
I'm not watching a movie, but technology is actually one of the requirements given to us by Hamburg.
Really? So you have to show them screens?
Not necessarily a screen. The idea of technology also being like a phone, like to make a phone call or...
But is it a screen-free phone or is it like a normal phone?
No, that'd be a normal phone. Then my Kita, so we have iPads given to us per group for us to communicate with the parents. Like we put in when the child falls asleep, we press a button and the parents get a notification on their phone.
Really?
The child's diaper, we press a button and the parents get a notification on their phone.
Because, for example, I try not to use my phone around the child. So I try not to do I don't have any app for a baby. There are some apps where you can put all of this. I have a notebook so I can write it down for me and my partner to know. But like I try to avoid screens around her. Only when she sleeps, but...
And I think that's also maybe another important question to ask at the Kita when you're visiting, what kind of their interaction with screens is. For my Kita, also on that app, there's a very basic app for when the children arrive that we press a green button. It's their picture. We click on their picture, we press the green button saying they're there. And I'll have the child do that for me some days.
Okay, I see.
Just get used to pressing the button. But my last Kita, we didn't have that and we wrote down what time they arrived. So that's a very good question to ask at visit.
Is it important what time they arrive or is it only important for the parents? What are the Kita hours?
That's another good question to ask at your visit. There are some Kitas that say every child needs to arrive by 9 a.m.
And what happens if the child arrives at 9:30? They don't let you in or... One thing I learned about the baby is if you have to be somewhere at 10, your baby will be hungry and will poop while eating, and then you need to change the baby, and then while changing she will pee on the body, and then you need to change the clothes, and you will not make the 10 a.m. deadline, you will not leave on time. So I'm really surprised.
So some Kitas you have to arrive by a certain time or else your child won't be cared for today.
But it's silly, right? Because if you have let's say I book an appointment that is a 30-minute appointment and I come 5 minutes late, but actually the slot is 1 hour, it doesn't really matter. If the child is supposed to be there all day, it doesn't really matter if it's there for the last hour or the last 5 minutes, if it was supposed to be there all day anyway, anyway.
So my Kita that I work for right now does not have a certain time that the child needs to be there by.
I wish my boss did that. Oh, sorry, you're 5 minutes late. You don't need to come in today.
So my Kita right now does not have bring times, like a time that we close the door. I think though for Kitas that do provide that or do require that, for them it's about it's hard for children to have parents in the room arriving. Where's my parent? Why is my parent not here? For them to be able to focus on Kita and focus on whatever they're doing, the activities that they're doing.
Or they're just being super German. Actually, I came to the doctor one time and I had an appointment at 9. I showed up at 9:03. The receptionist said to me that she needs to ask the doctor if she will take me. And I'm like, 3 minutes, And there was still someone in there, so I would still have to go to the waiting room. It's not like the doctor was waiting for me or took another patient, you always sit there and wait for an hour at least, right? But the doctor has to decide now if the 3 minutes make a difference or not. Yeah, so maybe it's just a German approach of being late.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also, I think, for the children to really, like, if you're doing an activity, if you're going on a field trip, you need them there by a certain time so that then everyone's there for what you're working on.
And how many kids are there in one class?
That is very dependent on the Kita. It's also, again, a good question to ask when you visit the Kita. There's a law about how many children per teacher and ratios of children to teacher. For a 0 to 3 classroom, the ratio in Hamburg is 7 children to 1 teacher.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, and from a 3 to 6 classroom, it's 13 children to 1 teacher.
Wow. You know, I have one child now, and I feel like the ratio 1 to 1 is too little, you know, like I need my partner sometimes. I call him and like, please help me. I cannot do this anymore. I need a minute. And then because he's upstairs renovating, he comes down and he like takes care of her, like even takes her away from me for a second, you know, so.
That's also why there's more than 1 teacher per classroom.
Erzia is more experienced and knows more.
Exactly.
Is this a good question to ask or is it too personal? Like, oh, what kind of education are you Erzia or this SPA?
What's important to know is that in every group, in every Kita, there will be at least 1 Erzia.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Legal requirement that at least 1 Erzia is in every group. As an example, I have a coworker who's in her 60s who is fantastic and has so much experience because she's been working in this job her whole life. But legally, she only has SPA. You can't judge a teacher based on what they have at that point. You have to judge them on the actual work that they do. I, for example, have nothing.
Yeah, you have English.
I'm technically only there for the English, but when I lived in the US, I also worked in Kitas. I've been working in Kitas since I was 15. I just don't have the Ausbildung. So those things, it's good to know, like, who has the knowledge and who's done the studying, but you can also learn that knowledge through experience.
And do all teachers at Kita have to go through first aid course and provide a certificate? And do you also have to have some health certificates or not?
That we're healthy?
Yeah.
What's required is there's a vaccine that's required, and that's the measles vaccine. And that's required for staff and for children.
Okay, I see. All right, so we have all the questions that you have to ask Kita and what to look for. And now, what is the best time to register for Kita and what is the Kita-Gutschein? So maybe what's the best time? If like my baby's now, I don't know, a few months old, is it a good time or am I too late?
I don't think you're too late, depending on the Kita. The last Kita that I worked in had a wait list of over 100 children.
Wait list of 100 children. This is crazy to me actually, because like right now I'm a new mom. I don't know. I took Elternzeit for 2 years, right? But in my state you have to pay for Kita 600 euro a month. So I'm thinking like, if I stay at home and I don't earn money, it's similar to like if I go to work for a few hours a week and then that money goes to a Kita, what's the point, you know? So right now I don't know this system well enough to like decide what I will do in 2 years. It's also crazy for me to think about what I will do in 2 years. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, what's the best time to sign child for Kita?
I mean, we have people who visit who are still pregnant, and we have people who visit who have a 2-year-old and are ready to start a Kita.
So would you say it depends on the place, on the Kita?
Right now, the birth rates are very low. So a lot of Kitas have empty spaces.
No, I'd say at the same time, when I went to give birth at the hospital, they sent me away because they didn't have space for me. So I had to go to another hospital.
Well.
So I guess it depends on how lucky you are, right?
It depends on how lucky you are. And I think that's also important to look. You know, Kitas that have a really good reputation around in the neighborhood among parents are going to have a longer wait list. Does that necessarily mean that they're a good Kita? No. I don't think that a Kita with a wait list is a sign of it being a good Kita.
So there is no best time, you just go when you...
You go, I think if you're being very particular about which Kita you're sending your child to and doing a lot of research, go now. Go look and see and look around.
Worst case scenario, they tell you we don't have a wait list, you can come in a year when closer to time, and at least you don't have to worry, right?
Exactly.
And now, how to apply for this Kita-Gutschein, because I'm very interested. I know that in my state there is no Gutschein. For children from 0 to 3, you just have to pay, and it's €600, which I think it's really a lot, because even with a mini job is like 500 something. What's the point? You work 10 hours, a week to get €500, and then for that time you need your child at the Kita and you pay 600. How is it in Hamburg?
The Kita-Gutschein system is a very confusing system.
Like everything in Germany.
Like everything in Germany. You're dealing with German government. You're dealing with Hamburg government. This is specific to Hamburg. It is Gutschein coupon for Kita. Every child in Hamburg is entitled to 5 hours per day, paid for, free, by the government.
When they are 0, like when they are born. Mutterschutz is 2 months, so probably after that, no?
When they're 100%, before that you have to prove that you need it.
Okay.
I see.
It's a website that you go to on the Hamburg website, and you enter in how many hours you want.
From the 5 hours?
So, no, 5 is the minimum. There's 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 per day.
But you only get 5.
So everyone starts with 5. You enter in your work contract, your working hours for both parents. If you're a single parent, then you put in that you're a single parent and say, here's proof that I'm a single parent. And you just give them all of your documents, all of your proof of anything. Someone sitting at a desk in Hamburg decides how many hours you deserve.
So you could, for example, apply for 12 but get 5.
You could. They will look at your working hours and they will say, if you work 8 hours a day, if both parents work 8 hours a day, the child will get a 10-hour Gutschein.
But that's a shame, no? Because, for example, if I don't go back to work full time and I only work 5 hours, but I also want to go shopping or go to the gym, so I would want to apply, for example, for 8 hours.
You always get an hour of commute time on each end.
Even if you work from home, they don't check?
No, I mean, that's commute time to Kita. They're not, I said always, I'm going to take back the always, because it's German government and you literally don't know who the person is that's looking at your documents. You're going to get however many hours that they think you need for bringing your kid to Kita, dropping them off, working, coming back home. Most Kitas will allow you to buy more hours.
On top of the Gutschein, you pay extra. And how much does it cost? Can I do it at your Kita?
At my Kita, you can buy hours. We have a document, a table of if your Gutschein is 5 hours and you want 8, you pay this amount. Those are numbers I don't have in my head because I just show the document every time that I'm asked that question. That's a good question to ask when you visit, though. If you're planning on doing more hours than your Gutschein, what those cost differences are. My Kita does not require this. Some Kitas do. Some Kitas require everyone to have at least 6 hours or at least 8 hours.
So you have to pay.
You have to pay.
Complicated system.
Yeah. It's a very complicated system, and it's important to know. I think I was reading the Kita-Gutschein website recently, and I believe when you apply for a Kita-Gutschein, you apply within 3 months of when you're wanting the Kita-Gutschein. So also it takes time. That's something to do in advance.
That's good to know.
Also important with the Kita-Gutschein is 5 hours is free. More than that, even if Hamburg decides that you get 8 hours, there's a charge that you have to pay.
Really? Even if the 8 hours is in the Gutschein?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
They do look at like your living expenses and your everything, but that's about, I think I might be wrong. I will look online and I'll text you the number in case I'm wrong. But I believe it's 180 euros that are required to be paid by parents. If you do more than the 5 hours.
But 5 hours is the minimum. So even if I go back to work for like 2 hours a day, I'm still entitled to the 5 hours.
You're still entitled to the 5 hours. Parents who do not work are entitled to the 5 hours.
Oh, I see. That's also good to know. Can the child stay less than 5 hours a day? So can I, for example, Kita and say, hey, I would like my child to come here for 2 hours, 2 times a week?
Some Kitas require then, like my last Kita required, again, we had the door closes at 9.
Okay.
And we had the first pickup time is 2.
Technically, in the other Kita, I could be late 3 times a week and then not come in and then just send the child on the other 2 days, right?
Well, that for us, we kind of see that as, especially when the Kita has limited spaces and there's a wait list, to be able to provide then that space for a child whose parents need it full time.
Okay, I see.
So if your family is only going to be doing that, that's then a moment to really look at a Kita and find a Kita that works that.
Are there Kitas where I can send my child to for like 2 days instead of 5? Maybe 5 is, also for a parent to send a child somewhere and not have a control and not see and like lose this closeness. It's a lot. So for example, I would personally prefer if I could send her somewhere for like 1 day a week or 5 hours a week, first.
There are other options that are not Kita.
And what are the options? Can you tell me?
Well, there's a Tagesmutter, so like an in-home carer.
Like someone will come to my home. Isn't that a babysitter?
No, that's in their own home.
Aha, so you bring your child to someone's home.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is one child and one person taking care of the child? Or is there more?
No, it's the same ratio. It's normally the same number of children. It's normally a little bit more personal care, fits the parents better. In a Tagesmutter, so that's a then self-employed person.
You cannot get a Gutschein for this, right?
You can.
The same Kita-Gutschein applies to Tagesmutter?
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's good to know. Thank you.
It's normally then that costs just a little bit extra, and that depends on the person.
But that's better than babysitter who comes to your house. Then there is no Gutschein for that, right?
No.
So there is Kita, Tagesmutter, and babysitter. That's the only 3 options. Au pair also, no? It's an
Au pair also, which actually is cheaper than a babysitter. Cheaper than a nanny. As someone who used to be an au pair, I know these things. It's
I also used to be an au pair.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to Northern Ireland, to Belfast.
I forgot. We had that conversation, I think, when we met each other, but I had forgotten that. There are other options like play groups for the baby. I actually just recently heard some former coworkers of mine just opened a co-working space that's also...
I saw that, actually. That's also for kids. Yeah.
Yeah, so that just opened. I don't know how that's working.
But when I lived in Belfast, when I went to the gym, they had a gym that had kindergarten kind of part or Kita part where you could like drop off your kid there. They were teachers and they were playing. You could go work out and then you come pick up your child on the way out. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The Germans, this is also a very important part of this conversation. The Germans are very, very focused on the child's rights to feeling comfortable and feeling good and feeling like their needs are being met.
No, actually, I went to my friend's home and she had a group photo of the children on the fridge, and some children had apples on the face if the person forgot to like say that it's okay or if they didn't agree. So like half of the children were apples.
Yeah.
And like from when I grew up, every year we had a group photo. There were no apples,
There were no apples. So to that, there's this process in Germany. I don't know if there's other countries that do it. We do not do it in the US. Of an Eingewohnung.
So what is the
Eingewohnung.
Okay, what is that?
It's a settlement.
Eingewohnung literally translates to English as adapting in, like a time to adapt in. It's a process that we do here in Germany. We don't do it in the US. I don't know which other countries might have a similar process, that we get the child used to being at Kita. And that takes we always say for the parents to plan about a month.
1 month.
How that works is in my Kita now, and it's the Berlin method, is that for the first few days or week, the parent and the child come to the classroom
Together.
And then once it seems like the child is doing good, I will say to the parent, okay, now say goodbye and leave for 5 minutes, and then come back, take your child, pick up your child, and go home. And then the next day we'll do 15 minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes until the child stays alone for a full hour. And then we will start adding more time at the end of that.
Are there some children that just don't do well and they can't stay and the parents say, okay, like we can't do it, sorry, and then they take the child back? Or every child will get used to it at some point?
The child will get used to it at some point. I've had unfortunate situations with children who are having a harder time where the Eingewohnung has taken 3 or 4 months.
But this system reminds me of the system that I have at work, actually. There are some coworkers, so if you get sick for a long period of time, let's say half a year or 1 year for whatever reason, then you can come back to work and you work 2 hours a day, every day, and then you can increase it until you work full 8 hours a day. And
so it's about getting the child used to being there and happy with being there and enjoying their time there. In the US, we don't have that.
So my last questions to wrap up the conversation. Is the Kita system in the US very different to the German one? What are the biggest differences?
That is the biggest difference. Also, costs is the biggest difference.
So you pay for Kita in the US?
And it's very expensive. I would want to say like $1,000 at least a month.
Okay, that's expensive.
It's expensive. And here, I mean, at least in Hamburg, it's a lot cheaper. But I think the Eingewohnung system is the system is very different to the US. In the US, you'll have a child start and stay 8 hours on their first day.
The bilingual system, because obviously in Europe it's very easy to add English as the second language. What would it be in the US? Do you have bilingual schools, and if so, what languages do you do?
There's a lot of Spanish.
Spanish, okay.
There's also French. I forgot the French one. There is a French one in my city. There's German ones also in the US. In Hamburg, there's also bilingual Spanish, French, Turkish Kitas.
Oh, really? I didn't know. It would be German French, not English French.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is English plus another language and then no German. Probably not, right?
Probably not. Not that I have seen. I've seen a Spanish one. I've seen the Turkish one. I've seen French.
Because now you mentioned Turkish, I wanted to ask about religion. Is it like a point in Kita? Is it a topic?
Again, another question to ask at your visit. There are some Kitas that refuse to talk about religion. My Kita, we talk about every religion. We celebrate all the days and we talk about all the days, especially if they're relevant to the classroom that we have. So if I have a child who is, or a coworker who's observing Ramadan or having this special event in their life right now, we're going to talk about it and introduce the other children to it. But there are other Kitas that do not.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation.
I think there's a lot of very particular things, and I deal with a lot of parents who have never dealt with the system. There's also the Kita-Gutschein system is new since all the parents were children themselves.
Okay.
So this is all things that even the German parents don't know. But I deal with a lot of parents who are relocating with a child who's already born, and this is all completely new information, which I think is why that's why I reached out to you, because I think your Instagram is such a good place for people to find out these questions that people have.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's good to find out, because I really have no idea. I just had a baby. I didn't even think about maybe I should research Kita already. For me it was a problem for future Annie. Yeah. Maybe I should start going around and asking a bit.
I think it's good to just look at websites of Kitas and look and see if you can sign up for a visit day, or if they're having a visit day soon, and just look and see what the Kita is. One also important note is that Kitas have, almost every Kita in Hamburg has a 3-month Kündigungsfrist. If you're planning on moving and you want to switch Kitas, you need to give the Kita at least 3 months notice.
Okay, I see.
In the same way is that if you sign a contract with the Kita before the child starts Kita. You need to let them know if you decide for a different Kita or not to send your child at least 3 months in advance, or else you'll be required to pay.
Okay, good to know.
Also, with Kita-Gutschein system, if a child stays away for longer than 30 Kita days, so 6 weeks. So if you go travel or like you go back to your home country for a period of time, your Kita-Gutschein will be canceled by the city.
Oh, really?
And you will lose your space in the Kita.
And then you can get a new Gutschein, or that's done?
You can apply for a new Gutschein, but not for the same Kita.
That's very good to know. And I was actually shocked that you can't homeschool your child, you know?
Oh,
I was really shocked because this is something I considered, you know, especially, you know, with being content creator, I would like to travel more. I just imagined that I could teach my child some things, so I could hire a teacher for some things. And I also don't like the system where the child has to be in a class based on the age, not on the abilities. I remember from my childhood sitting in a class where there were children who were just super slow, and I already learned reading before I entered school, you know, and then we were learning ABC. It was very boring for me. I really like this idea of joining a school based on your ability, not on your number. And I was always thinking that homeschooling would be a possibility. Then I could go home also, but not. It's illegal. And you can't even travel if you like want to take your child out of school on a Wednesday and fly to Italy. You can be stopped at the airport by the police or by whatever airport security, and I was really shocked. I couldn't believe this.
Yeah, that one's crazy. You do not want to get me started on the idea of deciding in 4th grade whether a child goes to gymnasium or Stadtteilschule. 4th grade.
Crazy system, no? Like child is born and you already have to decide its entire future.
You decide when a child is 10 whether they're going to university or not. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I cannot imagine. I think because of this, I know a lot of Germans who are in their late 20s, 30s, and they are still changing their education because they cannot they were, for example, forced to do this because they chose when they were like super young and they were unhappy with it. And now they keep looking, keep changing, and I meet them and they are doing this. And then the next time they are learning to do something else because it wasn't what they wanted.
I think it's also like, because my coworkers have an Ausbildung, right? So most of them didn't go to Gymnasium. They went to Hauptschule or Realschule or whatever they went to. And nothing against my coworkers. Between them and my German friends who went to Gymnasium and then to university, I see an education difference. You're not getting the same education. Also, my au pair kids, I still have contact with them. The oldest is 11 and cannot read.
Yeah, wow.
I'm not a fan of the German education system.
I really thought that homeschooling would be an option, especially that we do 3 languages at home, but apparently not.
I think it's also very important for parents until the child's in Vorschule, like preschool. We have letters everywhere. We have the numbers. We talk about the things, but we're not sitting, teaching how to write the letters, teaching how to do these things until the child's 5 or 6. And I think reading to your children at home is also super important. The Kita is not going to provide everything because Kita is also a place to play and do those things. I think it's very important also as parents to read to your child and read books and look at things.
Actually, this is something I've asked for my friends because I was supposed to have a baby shower. And you know, for baby shower, you ask for things which I felt like I didn't feel comfortable asking for, I don't know, baby bottle warmer and stuff, you know, and diapers. I just didn't want to feel like I'm making a party to get stuff. So, but it's also something that's really connected with baby showering, right? You like shower the baby with gifts. So instead of
things are also very expensive.
I told my friends to bring their favorite childhood book and I gave them language options, English, German or Polish. Then my baby shower was cancelled because the baby was born 2 or 3 weeks before the baby shower actually. And then they already bought the books. So now every time someone comes, I get they bring a book and it's super nice because the Polish ones, for example, are all my favorite childhood Polish books. Got some German books and...
I know baby showers in the US where they say instead of a card, bring a book. and you like write a note to the baby on the front page of the book. And
Nice.
I've been to baby showers where that I've brought a book.
All right. Well, thank you for this conversation. It was very useful. I learned a lot. I know a lot now.
Okay,
All
so
right.
thank you.
Bye.